When I was in high school, I won this award to go to Spain. And when I got there, I was able to converse, which was really weird. And like all these people were looking at me like, how's that girl doing this? So I just really fell in love with Spain. I fell in love with travel. And that's what I wanted to do. And I knew that if I spoke a second language, it would open up so many doors. It's literally what we started with. $6,000 and $150,000 in debt. And
in which
he
country?
and I in Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys balance like parenting and producing companies and building things? Like, what does that look like for you?
Oh, well, I think sometimes it's been like building the airplane while it's flying. Like, let's all be honest.
It is. I think I liked your word intentional, because you do have to be intentional, whether it's including them in the business side of things, or just making sure that, hey, if we're going to be home, we're all going to be home, and we're going to engage together.
You have these things that are really core. Your connection with God and your relationship there is like at the core in terms of definition. Mm-hmm. But then your marriage relationship sits outside of that. And if you can get those two things stable, you can be like the eye of a hurricane.
Yeah.
You can be calm in the midst of an ever increasing amount of chaos. Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Sarah. And last year we started our business By Design Homes, which includes design and construction, midterm rentals, and staging.
And on this podcast, we will be talking to other business owners about how they are creating unique and impactful businesses while building and managing their own lives and families.
Along the way, we'll share our journey as business owners and a busy family of 6.
We hope that you join us to learn and grow and discover new pathways to building life. Welcome to the David and Sarah podcast. Colleen, welcome to the David and Sarah podcast. We're so happy that you were here with us and glad that you've taken some time to tell us a little bit about your business and your journey. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, David and Sarah, for having me on. I'm really glad to be here with you guys and having this conversation.
Yeah, it's great. You know, on the podcast, a lot of times you're one of the first that we've had that we haven't necessarily had a long-standing relationship with in the past. And so I'm really excited to explore what this looks like as we dive into it. So kind of as a starting point, tell us a little bit about the current state of your business, its name, the facets of it, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So I have a vertical company that is called Morgan Stewart Logistics. That is my holding company. And my holding company is a logistics where we ship around the world. And that became an interior design company, which is Catechus Folium, which I don't know if you can see behind there, but it says Catechus Folium on the wall. That's the original sign for our stores in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Ecuador, where we bring furniture from North Carolina and around the world and ship it to Latin America. And then within this context, we started a business in the United States called CBB Design Firm, which is another part of this holding company, which is our design practice. And because the design practice exploded during pandemic, as who knew it was going to do that? It did that. It was crazy. We started buying kitchens, bath, finishes, exteriors, you name it, at wholesale as well, and started another company called Mimosa Home, all under the Morgan Stewart Logistics kind of holding company, if that makes sense. So it's like businesses within businesses. They just kind of shot. It was kind of crazy. So it's multiple things running at one time, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it does. So vertically, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I have ADHD is what I tell people.
And every time a new idea comes, you need a new business to go along with it. I like it. I'm
like, I don't want another EIN number. Let's just keep it going.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. We are similar on the businesses and EINs that go along with it, because we have our midterm rentals that we do, but then we're also in the middle of flipping a house. And so there's a whole thing around that. And then we also manage some midterm rentals for others. So I started a new EIN for that one as well. So we kind of have not as expansive as what you've got, but we have multiple
operations happening.
Happening at the same time that we're trying to build. So it's a fun challenge though.
I completely understand that.
You said you have logistics, you have design both from a Latin America standpoint and a U.S. standpoint. And then can you one more time? What was Mimosa Home? What was that business?
That is our showroom. That's our showroom where we have the furniture, we have the full kitchen display, we have the Cambria slabs, we have all of your flooring. Everything's in one house. So, like, normally you're having to go to like 8 different stores, whereas
Right. Yep.
we have it all under one house, which is awesome.
Nice.
Uh,
And
yeah,
that's in that stateside?
That's stateside, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
One would be nice. The
Yeah.
amount of time I've spent in my truck over the
Going to
past three
different
months
places.
between tile and vanities and flooring and looking at slabs for countertops. There's a lot of miles have been put on to get to all the different locations for all those things. So
Yeah.
that makes a lot of
And
sense to me.
that is how this little star was born. We were tired of having to drive everywhere. So I was like, I'm
Yes.
doing it myself.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. It's like one of my main learnings as we go to flip our next house is going to be, how do I spend less time in the car?
Yeah.
Because it does not feel like an efficient use of my time. Just the
Driving everywhere.
travel
Yeah.
that I spent to try and get this thing across the finish line. So
Yeah.
so Colleen, that's large and expansive right now. So take us back though. How did you start? Did you start in logistics or did you start in design? Where was the starting point of this journey?
Oh gosh. The starting point was an accident. The starting point was a Wake Forest grad who triple majored in politics, history, and Spanish and decided not to be a lawyer and was like, oh gosh, I have zero idea what I'm going to do with my life. And my resume got sent to a furniture company called Drexel Heritage, which is now no longer, but was a pretty big furniture company back then,
Yeah.
and I ended up in international. So, like the redheaded stepchild of furniture is the international business. They just didn't really know how to handle it. So it was like, okay, not only you're a rep, but you're going to be the visual merchandiser. You're going to be the credit manager. You're going to be the logistics person. You're going to have to figure out how to build this container, get the loading docks and get it from point A to point B. And by the way, it's going to go to Australia and it's got to be fumigated once it gets there. And then you've got to set it up. So it's like I learned from the corporate world how to create the business that I have now. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Right. Yeah.
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 I had no idea I was going to be in the furniture business. Had that was like not my dream, but once I got into it and traveled to 68 countries and understood how to get things from point A to point B, it just made things easier. And I think in essence, we were a designer logistics company. How do we put it that way? Like it's like
Right.
not sexy at all, but the ability to get things from point A to point B on time and at a good price was how we fell into this, my husband
Yeah.
and I. We were
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
two silly kids who were like 23 and 24 years old and were like, "Yeah, let's move to Costa Rica and do this."
So why Spanish? Why did you study in Spanish?
Because I was an army brat, I lived all over the
Okay.
United States, and
Uh-huh.
so, like, we would be places and I really didn't like the fact that I couldn't communicate, like,
Mm-hmm.
I really loved languages. School came to me very easy, and Spanish was very hard. It's a totally different use of your brain.
Yes.
So, like, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this out. And when I was in high school, I won this award to go to Spain. And when I got there, I was able to converse, which was really weird. And like all these people were looking at me like, how's that girl doing this? Even my parents were like, "How are you speaking fluent Spanish? Where did this come from? None of us speak Spanish, not a single one of us." And so I just really fell in love with Spain. I fell in love with travel, and I really that's what I wanted to do. And I knew that if I spoke a second language, it would open up so many doors and let me travel and be able to do really what I wanted to do in life, which was do international business and law of some form, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's interesting. And then definitely, like, we're in Texas, so Spanish is, probably the non, I don't know, official second language. But, and so a lot of the workers and everybody we're interacting with, like, we've both Spanish, we took Spanish in high school, and you've picked up more conversational Spanish and things that so you can communicate somewhat,
It's
but
probably a little bit of a stretch
it's
for learning conversational Spanish.
but it is like necessary, and I think that's so great that you had the ability to, like, understand that about yourself and then be able to, follow through. And now you've built it into your business and it's a part of who you are and where you're located and everything. So that's really cool.
Yeah, Latin America has always had like a piece of my heart. So, normalmente la gente cuando lo ve a mí hablando en español, sus ojos son así, "What? What?" And I'm like, "Sí, yo hablo español. ¿Cómo va?" And everybody's like, I'm looking at right now Dave's face going, "Wait, what?" Like, I I would I'd
Now,
sit
whenever you
there
go there and you say something, then their eyes get big because they're surprised.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm not like a typical Spanish speaker, like what you would envision. So like it just kind of is okay. And then, especially on building things, it's so important. It's so
Yeah.
important. I mean, so it worked out very well, in a
Yeah.
way. I guess I trained myself to get into the construction side of the business and all this other stuff. So, and it's just been cool.
Yeah. That's
Well,
neat.
it's motivating me to get back into it. We I had to learn it some just the church organization that we're a part of. We have some churches in Nicaragua, and so I was going down and
Oh
helping
wow.
just with interacting with some of the leaders down there and just helping them
Yeah.
out with some of the work that they were already doing locally. And so I had to do some crash courses in Spanish so I could at least function, right?
Right.
At least get to where I could move around. But it has if I don't use it all the time, it kind of evaporates. And so
Yeah.
talking to you is making me go, I need to get back into it because it for sure is the primary language on our construction sites.
Yes.
And so it would be very helpful.
Yeah.
How was Nicaragua? I haven't been back there since 2018. How was it?
What year was I?
It was
I'm gonna say it was just pre-COVID. I want to say it was 2020.
but early in
Oh, wow.
2020.
2020,
Yeah.
2021 is when I was there. I mean, it's a beautiful country. The people obviously are amazing, and
Mhm.
definitely built some real friendships there. The politics are challenging,
Yeah.
and create some challenging situations for people. And so that's like for us, even we were trying to send
Another team
a
back.
significant shipment of goods because I think they'd had a storm come through and it
Mhm.
created a lot of destruction of property and that kind of thing. And man, that stuff got caught up in customs. Like we sent a container ship or a container of clothes and those kind of things down there, and it got caught. It was there for months and months and months
Before they
just
would
sitting
release it. Mhm.
in Nicaragua, but unable to get to the people that we were trying to get it to because of those kind of things, and political issues and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sad. Nicaragua was absolutely beautiful. And then when they stole all the money from the people in 2018, which is why I've not been back, they murdered moms on Mother's Day. And
Oh.
the government is just so corrupt down there. And
Yeah.
it's amazing how we had a business overnight that was flourishing. And then the next day it was gone. It was gone. Everything was gone.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just so that's why I was just wondering when you had gone because like it's such a different it's kind of like what's going on with Venezuela right now where like,
Yeah.
they had an election, but the other guy totally won and then Maduro's still there. It's just kind of like, Ortega's not going anywhere. And if you send beautiful clothes or things to help people out, things go missing or your container sits until you sadly have to
Yeah.
like bribe somebody. And it's like, we're not going to do that, like
Yeah.
it's just so yeah, that's what I was just trying to understand when the last time you went down there. It's
Yeah, earlier this year we were going to go down there again and just kind of catch up and help with some of the building of the local communities, and they told us like
Yeah.
this isn't the time to be showing up with projectors and equipment and like this is not the moment. And
Yeah.
so we had to put that on pause for a little while, but we really want to go back because it was just real relationships were built,
Yeah.
and real connections and people we still at least message with on Facebook and WhatsApp and those kind of things. And so yeah, we want a way to get back.
Mhm.
I really miss my friends down there. There are some amazing people in Nicaragua. It's
Yeah.
just sad. And so, yeah, I feel you. So I hope you guys get down there someday soon.
Yeah.
Me too.
Sorry for the
Well,
detour,
that
but I was
that
Ah, that was
unexpected.
on me. That was on me.
Oh.
That was on me. That was on me.
Oh, that was unexpected.
No, that's great.
So how did you end up? So you were you got the furniture company. You are doing your designer logistics, and so then wait. So was your husband there as well? Like when did the When
Yes.
did you and
So
your husband?
he and I started the company in 2006 on the day Bear Stearns crashed. And we, you know, basically had gone down. I had gone down as a rep. So I was traveling to Asia, I was traveling to Latin America, I was traveling to Europe, I was in all over. And it just after 2 years of flying, literally every other week, I would be going around the world, which is awesome and glamorous and fun the first trip. But after like trip 10, you're just like,
Right.
I can't keep doing this. I mean, I love Australia was amazing. But I just said, you know what? I speak Spanish. And they're like, I really want to go someplace where I can live and be local and create this, regional rep. At least that's what I thought I was doing. Um, and when we got down to Costa Rica, the people that we were working with went out of business. And so my boss was like, well, I need you to make that up. I'm like, isn't that a conflict of interest of like having your own store, selling your product, and being a rep? And he's like, we got to make it up. So let's get moving. So we opened our first kind of to the trade showroom. It was like 50 square meters. So 500 square feet across from a chicken, a donkey, and a turkey. That's literally what we started with. 6 grand and 150 grand in debt. And
In which
he and
country?
I in Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica. Okay.
hmm So caducus folium means fallen leaf, which is Latin for fallen leaf, which was the emblem of Drexel Heritage. Like it was supposed to just be a shell corporation because in third world
Right.
countries, the only way to pay yourself is you have to pay your company pays you. So basically, that's what we did. And we created this concept of like Amazon, but high end. Prior to Amazon even being Amazon, we were like, okay, we're going to do no inventory. We're going to show you a picture. I've got the finish, I've got the fabric. I'm going to get it to you in XYZ time. Here's your price, same price as the United States. So we ate the shipping margin because the shipping on that was 13% VAT, which you put on top, and 16% off of any goods imported into the country.
Wow.
So you're already at 16% loss on margin. Now, there are other countries like Brazil, which is 45% tax. There's, the Dominican Republic's 100% tax. So like you have to learn all of that, which
Yeah.
was why when we did that, it was insane because these people were paying 6 times the price on a regular piece of furniture that typical people here will spend at like times three, right? That's a typical
Right.
margin, right? Or a markup. So imagine you're paying for a sofa that's usually $3,000 in the United States would be $6,000 in Costa Rica.
Right.
So
6,000 US dollars plus the fact that the currency itself, there's a lot of things there that go into how much that actually is
fluctuates.
impacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we always traded in dollars. It was never going to be local currency. It was too much risk. I mean,
Yeah.
they would sit and wait and I'm like, we're not playing that game. So everything was in dollars and we packed our own containers. So we hand packed our own stuff, which was not fun, let me tell you. We did our own installs, which was not fun. My husband played rugby, so we hired rugby players to
Nice.
Nice.
install furniture.
That's
Rugby
perfect.
rugby players are the best. They're super strong. So like we had this whole
Yes.
team like bringing in stuff.
That's
And
perfect. That
they
works.
were they were great because they were like these kids and we were paying them like US wages because we were like, we already charged that. So they did great. We had our whole team. We're installing this stuff. And we ended up doing like 18 containers our first year. It was crazy.
Wow.
Like
So when
just
you say you pack the containers, did everything like come into Miami or something like that, and then you pack it there and then ship it?
No, we shipped it to North Carolina. So we did
Oh,
it
okay.
from where my husband was from, which is Morganton, North Carolina, which is where all furniture used to be from this town in Morganton, and Hickory and that area. That region of the world is like the East Coast mecca for furniture. You have
Okay.
Michigan for like contract furniture, like office furniture comes from Michigan. And now you've got like an LA kind of like mid area of California to help the West Coast because shipping is so expensive to go across.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those have been kind of the predominant furniture areas of the world. I don't know if you've ever heard of like Bernhardt, Century, Hickory
Yeah.
Chair, Hickory, Thomasville,
Sure, for sure.
Henry, all of those are from this region, like
Okay.
everything. So Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams, they were from here.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it made it easy and more centralized to not have to eat the inland freight because, like,
Hmm.
Right.
inland freight can be 20%. I mean, my gosh, we get stuff right now from, like, um, if you're looking at Texas, Texas is lighting, by the way. Texas is lighting and rugs. So if you ever want to know what Texas is known for, that's what they're known for. So, like, lighting will be a 20 to 25% charge to bring a truck all the way here to drop off. So it's expensive. And then to
Mhm.
have to add another 16% and then another 12%, by then you've got nothing. So we're like, okay, let's keep it to as minimal as possible. My husband would drive around in a truck, go pick stuff up,
Yep.
bring it to our loading dock, and we would hand pack it like Tetris.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so space in your container is the most valuable thing you can have because, like, your containers back then were not expensive. We thought they were expensive because we were stupid kids. It was like $2,500 to send a container from the United States to Costa Rica. Now you're looking at like 15, twenty thousand
Yeah. Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. So, if you ship air, you are literally paying for air. So, I mean,
Right.
we had
So you got to get it
everything.
packed tight.
Yep. And you got to make sure you also don't put a sofa on top of a lamp because I've seen that
Yeah.
happen. Like, and that's smushed. And then you're in a
Yep.
foreign country opening it up and you're like, so that lamp we waited for over a year and a half, it's smushed.
It's
Yeah.
smushed. Oh, yeah. I can't imagine.
Oh man.
I
Yeah.
remember
I
we were
mean,
visiting some. We had some friends in. Actually, my cousin lives in Trinidad and Tobago, and just talking about the tax issue and just like the price of their cars was the same thing.
Yeah.
oh,
Like they're paying way more than we were paying, and yet the economics of it just always hurt my head because it's not like everybody there was making salaries commensurate with something larger. But there were certain goods that to get them imported and get them imported effectively made them an even more of a luxury good than you would expect.
Yeah. Well, you see that too with your sister lives in New Zealand, and so even just the normal things that we'd walk out to the store and grab and get, their markup is 5, 10, 20, 50 times what we would
hmm
pay for it, and it's just a normal, I'm getting this baking dish or whatever it is, and you're just like, because I had to get on a ship and packaged and brought over, and
oh yeah.
everything's different. So yeah,
Yeah, the markup
that's a
in New
real
Zealand and
struggle.
Australia is typically a times 7 on furniture. Just to give you an
Yeah.
idea, just I mean, like, I'd be like, "You're selling this sofa for how much money?"
Yes.
Holy
That's
cow,
crazy.
and someone's gonna buy that? Oh,
Right. But if you're there,
whoa.
you have no option. Like that is, if you don't want to live on a cardboard box or something, you just don't have another option. So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. No, it's,
Okay.
yeah, I drove an FJ Cruiser. Do you remember those FJ Cruisers? Like,
Yep.
the big.
Yeah.
And I was the first one into Costa Rica, and they went nuts. They would, like, the police officers would stop me just to look in my car. Like,
That's
eventually just
awesome.
kept the dog in the back, and so they'd come and the dog would bark that out, and they'd be like, "Oh, sorry, sorry, sorry."
Oh my
So,
gosh. Yeah.
Clayton, so back to Costa Rica, who were your clients? Like, who are you actually selling the furniture to, and who are you actually servicing at that point in time?
So prior to the economic collapse, we call ourselves gringos. Like, we sold to gringos. I mean, they called you that. It wasn't anything bad. In Costa Rica, being called a gringo is not a bad thing. Go to other countries and a gringo is not a nice word. So it was selling to the resorts, it was selling to the second home market. And then obviously during the crash, that changed. So we ended up focusing more on the Costa Ricans. And
Hmm.
so that's where we were working. We sold to the homeowner of Imperial. He's the head of the beer company down there. That was about a 15,000 square foot house. We did a
Wow.
lawyer's house. That was a 12,000 square foot house. It was really the more upper echelons of Latin America. Um, when we moved into Nicaragua, we did vice presidents' houses. We did, people I can't name because they're probably on the most wanted list. Um, we did some very upper echelon, very big houses. A typical house that we were working on was between 5,000 to 10,000 square meters, which is, you know, a lot. They're
Yeah.
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are big.
Or
Yeah.
15,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet. And we would do the whole house top to bottom.
Wow.
Meaning
Yeah.
like furnishings and what beyond is it primarily furnishings, right? So like every.
At that point in time, it was furnishings, and then we just kept watching how finishes would take away our budget, and I was like, "That's it. We gotta get into finishes. We gotta get into the
Yeah.
kitchen and the bath and the stuff because 'cause I'm really upset that she just paid retail and spent a $500,000 on her kitchen when we coulda done that with what we were working on." So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we got into kitchens and bath, and then, a little bit of flooring. Flooring's a little bit tougher to get into. Those markets were kinda saturated, but furniture was just easier, and lighting. That was like our
Mhm.
wheelhouse for a very,
Mhm.
very long time. And it was good, you know? We were down there for from 2006 to 2012. And then we got married. We were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. So, of course, then you're like, oh, you're not married and you're living together in a foreign country. And I'm like, oh, gosh. my
All the
Catholic
risk.
grand my Catholic grandmother's like, "Oh," I'm like, "It's gonna be okay." And then we got married, and then we had our daughter Madeline, and it really was just such an eye opener. Like all the things I really missed about being in the States. I love Latin America, but it was just time to go home, and we'd
Mhm.
also worked ourselves out of our own companies because we had hired managers. We had managers working for us in each of these countries, and it's like I was kind of in the way, you know what I mean? It was like, "Okay, we need to go back." So after we expanded into Nicaragua, we moved back, and then, an incredible businesswoman and her daughter came from Honduras, and they wanted to franchise. So we had our first franchise, in Honduras, and
Mhm.
then another incredible mom and daughter team out of Ecuador also wanted to do it. So I ended up in South America and Honduras at the same time. Honduras was crazy because we opened the day the new president was elected and a coup tried to happen. And so we're nailing up the board. We had a 7,000 square foot showroom, and I'm going, oh my God.
Not
we
today.
like
Maybe
to
not
we,
today.
we like to do this in times of crisis
Yes.
and pregnancies. Can we please
Right.
stop? So I had my second daughter when that happened, and then my third daughter I had when we opened in Colombia. So it was cool. It was like we had South America and the Central America, kind of like that armpit right there. That was like
Mhm.
our little wheelhouse, and it was really really cool until pandemic happened, and then it just if you thought pandemic was bad in our country, it was very bad in those countries.
Yeah.
So that's where I really haven't been back. It's just kind of been like, all right, they're still functioning, but it's like maybe a third of what they were at. And I think I need to get back and do some TLC, but there's just been so much political upheaval with that. I mean, that's also international business and being in the United States. We're very fortunate. I think like we don't realize that in our lives. I
Mhm.
mean, I was very when I went down to Costa Rica, like, I'm out. I'm not dealing with any of this crazy anymore. And then I come back and I'm like, thank God. Thank God we live here. Uh, I can
Yeah.
walk on the streets. I can do all that stuff and not have to worry about someone coming after me. I mean, we would like prance in the supermarket. We were like, "Oh, this is awesome." Milk isn't $25 a gallon. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how we ended up back here. And while we were doing all of this, we picked up Ralph Lauren. So my husband and I were in charge of Ralph Lauren Home as reps, kind of visual merchandisers, credit, all that stuff. He handled Asia, and I handled Latin America and Africa. And so we traveled a lot. And then he got asked to be the CEO of the company that produced it. So he took on that role, and I kind of took over the business as what we did. And I was working with Ralph like right up till when pandemic happened, and they kind of decided to take things. They changed vendors, and they wanted to produce their product in Asia and some in US. So it was a good time. And
Yeah.
then obviously the day pandemic happens, I decide to open my interior design business. So good times.
Like that happened like in March of 20. What was it? March of
March
2020.
20th, March 20th, 2020, I
Yeah.
started my design practice. Like, do you see a theme? There's like this
Bold
theme.
move. Like you are
Yeah.
hitting crisis on the nose with your transitions. That's really let me know the next time you're gonna start something new. You
Right. Because
just
then
I
we
know.
might know there's
just
something
know
coming.
so we'll know.
I feel like Typhoid Mary. I'm like, here she comes.
Wow. Yeah.
So you guys did Ralph Lauren together for a while, and then your husband went off to be the CEO of what was the company that he went to be the CEO of, or what
He
kind of
was at
company was it?
EJ Victor. EJ Victor. So
Okay.
yeah. And it's an
And
incredible company in Morganton. They make all of it in the US, which was awesome. And then they parted ways about a year ago, which was fine. And he does developments now. So he does hotel developments. He's doing like about 4 or 5 Marriotts, and then he's working on breweries. So another thing that happens is I leave to go to foreign countries and breweries pop up. So he owns Fonta Flora, which is a brewery. He's done some stuff with Jester King out in Texas. That was really cool. And they won Best Irish Stout their first year in the United
nice.
Oh
States. It was
wow.
the big
Yeah.
Colorado, and then they won Best Natural Beer. They've been featured in Beer Advocate as top brewery in the nation. So they have a huge kind of cult following. So we're kind of like little weirdos. And then we have entrepreneurs, and then we have kids, and we have 3 girls who put
So
up with
wait,
their crazy
so
parents.
yeah, let's dive into that just a little bit because like
Sure.
you're painting this. There's this picture of we're doing this and we're doing that, and
It's so
like
diverse.
my husband's running this and then running that, and I'm launching this business. And oh, by the way, we had 3 daughters somewhere in the middle of there. Like,
Yes.
and so talk to a little bit like how do you guys balance like parenting and producing companies and building things? Like, what does that look like for you?
Oh, well, I think sometimes it's been like building the airplane while it's flying. Like, let's all be honest. You're like, you're trying to be there for your kids, and sometimes you're not. And it was very tough for a while, like when you're halfway around the world. So what I decided to do was just bring my girls with me. So I took my
Mm.
oldest, and my middle would travel with me.
Yep.
So we made enough, we had a nanny. So I took my daughters to Australia and New Zealand, and they got to go around with the top buyer of David Jones, which is like the Bloomingdale's of United States. We're walking around with the top buyer, and my girls are prancing around, and it was really cool because I got to see mom in action. And then one of them got lost. We had to find her.
Oh
So
my goodness.
all of David Jones is looking for my daughter. It's like
Oh.
winning, and then my middle one has the rarest form of epilepsy in the world. She has the
Oh.
U2AF2 genome, and her seizures would last an hour to an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh.
So I've lived in a hospital for, I think we're at like between 150 and 200 days now, like over the past 10 years. I mean, I've had to learn genetics. I've had to learn epilepsy. I started the Epilepsy Foundation in North Carolina. And then I had to learn that foundations aren't the nicest and greatest things you'll ever,
Mm.
they do good things, but sometimes the money doesn't go where they say it's going. And
Right.
I had to when my middle daughter was, in the hospital. I had just given birth to my third daughter. So there I am nursing my daughter, making sure my daughter who's just had a seizure is okay, and
Wow.
I don't know, there's no manual, but we did
Yeah.
it. We
Yeah.
show up. How's that?
Yeah.
Or I'll coach soccer, or I'll try to do things for my kids when I can. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? I
Yeah.
Yeah.
mean, they're my most important things in my life, but I've also have these businesses that are like children as well. And so it's kind of like you have to be intentional. It's like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
here, I'm showing up for you. You have my time, you know? And we've been really starting to be very focused on like, get off your phone, get off your technology. We're hanging as a family. We're actually going to have dinner. Like meal times are our most important thing. Like it's
Yeah.
like
Yes.
we come together, we sit, we eat. I mean, it's the most important for us.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and it's interesting. It's interesting to see how my 3 daughters have grown up. I mean, my oldest daughter speaks Spanish fluently. It's kind of weird because she lived in Costa Rica.
Right.
My middle daughter speaks both, but she kind of refuses to speak Spanish. She understands it perfectly. Like you talk to her, she'll just respond back in English. I'm like, "Come on, dude, you can do it." And then my third one grew up. We had a Guatemalan nanny, so she speaks a Guatemalan dialect that nobody speaks. And so she'll like say these things to us, and like our lady will start cracking up. And I'm like, "What'd she say?" She's like, "You don't want to know." But, I mean, we try. I mean, what do you guys do? I mean, we try. I think as parents,
Yeah.
you have to try. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, we're not traveling across the world, but definitely we've, take them on as many, job site locations. They've been very a part of any time we've, even looked at houses or gone through a house process, and they're in all, some form of our decision making and what do they think about this. And so, but I do think it's about, I mean, we have four, and they're all, they're in a private school, and then they're all involved in sports and activities. And so it is I think I liked your word intentional, because you do have to be intentional, whether it's um including them in the business side of things, or just making sure that, hey, if we're going to be home, we're all going to be home, and we're going to engage together in something, or an activity, or we're going to show up to your sporting event. We're going to show up and be on the sideline, and we're going to cheer you on, and kind of that sense of thing. I know one of the big things for us has just always been communication. Like, we're always talking to them and including them in the journey, so they understand, why we're making these decisions and what's happening next. And you know so it's not like they're just being dragged along for the ride, but they're actually included in a part. um yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, so our oldest, she's 14. How old are yours?
13, 10, and 6.
Okay,
Okay.
so very close. We're 14, 11, 8, and 6 right now. Right. So we're in
Okay.
the same. Right. So our 14-year-old daughters, this girl, boy, boy, girl, she's always been like the just explain it to me person.
Yeah.
Like, even I was traveling quite a bit when she was younger, and and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna be gone for 5 days. And she'd be like, okay, so dad, you're gonna be gone. I'm gonna sleep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then you'll be here. I was like, yes. And she'd be like, okay. And that was enough. Like, she was just, if I can understand it, I'm good. Um, and so I think one of the things that we found is important is figuring out when we need to engage and engage with our kids in a way that gets us an outsized return. Like,
Hmm.
the example that I think of is it was 2 years ago, so my daughter was 12, and just really felt like she was at a transitional point. And I was driving her to soccer practice, and it was a 30-minute drive each way, and really just felt like, prayerfully, hey, there was a sense from God, like, you need to invest in this relationship right
Yeah.
now. And so I got uncomfortable. We had some uncomfortable conversations about school and what's going on, and just really pushed to make sure that we had a relationship where, at that point in time in her life, she was still hearing me as a strong voice inside of her life, a voice
Hmm.
of wisdom, a voice of insight, someone she could talk to. And I basically spent, I mean, the first couple rides, I'll be honest, was definitely, I'm going to call it a 90-10 split. Me talking, and I'm 90, she's 10, right?
Yeah.
It took some time. But, 2, 3 months in, that had basically flipped. I mean, I can show up in a car now and she will talk the
Shoot.
whole time,
Yeah.
but there was a foundation of relationship that was built in that 3-month window of intentional activity that I still live out of today.
Yeah.
Like, because I spent the right time with her then, there's like it built some equity. And so I think I'm always on the lookout for, okay, I can't do let me spend an exact amount of time with all of my kids at all points in time. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And I also think it's important not to just always to be all group interactions. I mean,
Hmm.
you've got three, right? So, it can't just always be group. And so it's like, who do I need to go invest some time with? And what does that time need to look like to make sure that something real is being built?
Hmm.
Like, the converse was with so the second one is a son. So my daughter is a talker, and I'm a talker. So just talking is great. And when I started trying to think about how to really build a relationship with my son, um, what I realized was he's like really like a standard 11, 12-year-old boy. Like, he doesn't really want to sit here and tell me about his feelings.
No.
And like, he doesn't even know. Like,
Yeah,
he
he's
doesn't
not even aware.
have,
Yeah.
like, that's not what's going on up there. Like, what's
Yeah.
going on up there is physical and sports and activity and that kind of thing. And I realized with him, if I wanted to get to where we could have genuine conversations, I needed to go do things with him. He
Yeah.
needed activities. He
Yes.
needed me to go shoot basketball. He needed me to go,
Fishing.
fishing, which thankfully, both of our dads
Yeah.
are avid fishers, and my sons are avid fishermen. and that's great for all of them.
I can see where this is going.
So
So,
I will show up sometimes.
yeah. But
But
they've got some very invested grandfathers
we have
too.
some very invested grandfathers
Yeah.
who live here locally, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But like with him, Ezra's his name. I really needed some help. I was going on to our current flip on, on a recent day, and I realized, man, this would be much better if I just had him with me. I could get so much more done, with this 12-year-old, boy who could come and help me. And so I just brought him along and I paid him. I was like, hey, I'll pay you for the day.
Yeah.
Come and help me and be,
That's awesome.
be a part of work. And I'm trying to build something there where I think as he gets to 13, 14, 15, 16, to where, he can really be a part of some of the physical things
Yeah.
we're doing. Eventually start to learn some skills and really that be, he walks away hopefully with an understanding of real estate and an understanding of construction. But more importantly, we've built a relationship where while he's going through what can be an interesting up and down of
Right.
early teenagehood years, there's some foundations of activities and interaction that hopefully, allows us to really, really build something that lasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I always we have a village, you know what I mean? It takes a village
Yes.
anywhere.
100%.
I always tell people, like, which child's on fire today? I need to know. Like, I get the reading when I come in, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like,
Mhm.
well, the oldest one's been up in her room. The second one beat up the third one, and the third one, well, she beat the second one back up. So now we've got, a huge war going on. You're like, oh, awesome! It's so good to be back. Let's deal with
Yes.
this. Let me walk in, and I'm like, how did the child who's a quarter of your size beat you up?
Yeah.
Please explain to me. Like, what? Who did what? Who took this? You
Mhm.
know,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have to switch, and you're like going from business to mom hat or parent hat is
For sure.
hard.
Yeah.
But I think the hardest, I think sometimes is like not just being the parents, like spouse time, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
that's the thing that's like last. And
Mhm.
that's our problem. I think our biggest problem is like I'll be like my husband, like, I've not seen you in like weeks. He's like, I know, I've been right here, but we've been so busy with
Yeah.
herding our cats over here and trying to get them from point A to point B, intentionally trying to be good parents where you're just like, we really need a date night. We need to get
Yeah.
out of here and we need a date night. And I just need to like have adult conversation where it has nothing to do with furniture or someone's finish or someone hit this person. I just need like,
Yeah.
hi, hello, I'm right here. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes. 100%. Yeah. We
Yeah, we did
actually
that
just this weekend.
Saturday. I
Yeah.
was like, look, because you know, more than us, when you're doing a full house renovation, the amount of decisions is
You just
and it's a huge amount of decisions, right? From layout to construction to products to order of construction and when it can happen and negotiating with contractors who all would like it to be the easiest possible for them and how
mm-hmm,
you got to go
Yeah.
work through all of that. And so I was like, we're gonna go and we found this new nice little wine house in Prosper, Texas, and went out there and I was like, I don't want to talk about the next decision. That's not what
Yeah.
we're not here to talk about the fact that we've got to get our knobs selected for cabinets because cabinets are going to go in and all that. I said, we're going to talk about us.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about our kids. And we're just not going to talk about those things for right now.
Yeah.
And it was
great.
fantastic.
Mhm.
It was, and it's like there's this sense of prioritization.
Mhm.
The loudness is the kids. The loudness is the business is on fire. That's the loud stuff. But the truth, and I think for us over past since 2019, we've had an interesting series of crises in our own life where like we had a leak that caused us to have to leave our house, and then we got back in our house and there was a gas leak, and then we got the gas leak fixed, and then there was another leak, and it was like
Yeah.
a wild year of us in and out of our house, and it was in the middle of COVID, so like
oh
kids
gosh,
were schooling from home,
Yeah. You were
and
working from home full time.
and I was working from home full time, and some houses that we would go to did not work well for kids running around
Yeah.
and working. But it was like in the midst of that, and even to this day, one of the words that's kind of a highlight for us is synchronization.
Yeah.
Is like this is actually more important. It's not
Yeah.
yelling. I mean, it's not yelling until it's yelling. If you get to the point where this is yelling, then you know you need to spend some time.
Yeah.
But if we invest the time to make sure that we're connected and we're engaged, then it's like everything else is like can sit outside of that core.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you
Yeah.
you have these things that are really core. Your connection with God and your relationship there is like at the core in terms of
Hmm.
definition, but then your marriage relationship sits outside of that. And if you can get those two things stable, you can be like the eye of a hurricane.
Yeah.
You can be calm in the midst of an ever increasing amount of chaos, and that's where we feel like we're at right now. Is
Yeah.
we've done a good job of getting that core
Really strong.
really strong and really stable, and consequently now we can handle more. So now we
Yeah.
can handle the fact that Sarah's working as an accountant, as a home stager for several real estate agents in the area. She is for sure our primary designer for all the work that we're
Yeah.
doing, on top of mom and house management and all of that kind of thing. And it's like the us 5 years ago couldn't handle the
Right.
weight of the kind of things that we're trying to do now. We just
Yeah.
couldn't. We didn't have the maturity. We didn't have what was built inside of our relationship that we have today. But it's like we've come to a place now where we can. And
Yeah.
it's like you get the sense like God can put more stuff on and more weight and we can handle more things, but it's because that core is stable. It
Yeah.
can handle the press, if you will, of additional weight.
Well, and that's one of the things for us has always been that, like, anything that any new endeavor, a new thing that we've built or whatever has always kind of pivoted off of our relationship and what's already been built inside of us. And so from that strength, then we can lean into and build things out, how we see it and how God sees it and how we've had it laid out for us. So whether it's, putting focus in relationships with our kids or investing time in the business or building out things that, I've got my hands in. And I mean, you still have a 9 to 5, job
We'll
that
say it's 9 to 5.
it is 9 to 5. You still have a full-time job that has real demands on your time and on your mental capacity and energy. And so just finding the 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 stillness inside of our relationship. And I think that word synchronization is definitely one that we've come back to all the time of, are we synchronized, and how we're seeing things and how we want to build this out. And so I think that's really been something for us that's helped us continue to build kind of strength upon strength going forward. So yeah.
And that's awesome. I feel like, in your marriage relationships, it can go very close and then it can go very like this and it will come back. But it's like you and your partner really have to like dig deep and be like, okay, I'm all the way over here and you're all the way over there. But I
Yeah.
remember when we were right here.
Hmm.
So it's like, let's bring this back in, let's talk and let's figure out how to get back to this because like when you're off, you just feel it. I don't know if that's in
Yeah.
your
So you can feel
household,
the
but my
tension. Yeah.
my household becomes chaos in 5
Hmm.
seconds and I'm like, "Uh-oh, I know where this is starting from." You
Yes,
know.
definitely.
And I think you have to talk about that truthfully. A lot of people like to paint this picture like it's all, roses and sunshine and I'm like, there are days where I'm like, "You could go. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll be right here." I'm like, "Bye-bye." Like
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. You got to be able to
yeah.
have hard conversations,
Yeah.
and
And
especially
real
over long
conversations.
periods of time, because you and your husband have been together for what,
20
25,
years,
20
20
years,
years.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's been a long time.
Yeah. We've been
we
married
started dating in nine. No,
2000,
was it 2000? I think it was December
99,
27th, 1999. That's what I want
99.
to say.
Oh, good
Uh,
timing.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's right.
So
Is that right? I think that's right.
that's right.
So we started in 99. So we're at 20 this
Six.
this December will be the 25th
Congratulations.
anniversary of our first date. That's right.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah, we celebrated our 20th first date this year. So,
Yeah.
that's a long time. I
So
It
mean,
is a long time. I mean, over half our lives we have been
yeah.
journeying in a relationship together. So, and that's one thing that comes down to me too. Like, the businesses may come and go, and I know the kids will grow up and build their own lives, and we'll still have interactions and everything, obviously build strong relationships there. But at the end of the day, it's me and him. Like, it comes back down to this relationship that we've built.
yeah, you're gonna get rid of me.
Yeah. So, not that I would want to.
It's gonna become the
But
Sarah podcast.
yeah, just the Sarah.
So good.
But yeah, so it's definitely it's something you have to keep in your mind and be intentional to continue to focus on, you know, outside the business sphere and all of that. So, yep.
All right.
No.
So, bringing it back around to today.
Mhm.
So, what's the focus for, we started the conversation right with you've got a logistics company and you've got obviously your franchise operations going on in Latin America. Like what's primary for
Mhm.
you right now in terms of the focus area from a growth standpoint?
We're really into 3D. We're all technology. Like we started our 3D asset company in 2008 called Outrendered, where we started really in high poly format renderings of houses and showing people what their finishes were going to look like. And then we really went into low poly format, which is your SketchUp, your Revit, seeing how everything looks. And that's how when we did this, when pandemic happened, I mean, I had 6 clients, now I'm at 150. You can
Wow.
scale very fast
Hmm.
because
150 interior design clients.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So I'm trying to think of which business because there's lots of them.
This
Right?
is
So
sorry,
make
sorry,
sure.
sorry. This is for CBB. This is for CBB. So
Yes.
CBB boomed. It just went, I mean, I couldn't, it was like you turn around, you're like, what just happened? Okay, what's going on here? And then
Yeah.
it was like, how do we scale this and how do we make sure? And all of our clients said the same exact thing. I cannot envision my house. That's been my client's number one problem. And I said, okay, how about I put your house into 3D? You're looking at 1750 for the exterior, 1750 for the interior, and 1750 to pick all your furniture. For $5,300, your entire house is done. And people were like, I can do that. And I'll do it in a package this way. And it just went, whew. And so, but it allowed, that's where our big scale has been. Our big scale has been that. And then it's
Hmm.
allowed our clients to then see everything down to the inch, what it's going to look like. And then if you don't speak Spanish, it doesn't matter because you can print off the picture, stick it on the wall, and say, looks like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
And we have it down to even where the tiles laid out. Like it allows our clients to have SketchUp on their iPad and you can walk the whole house with the builder and be like, it needs to look like this. This is what it needs to look like. And then on top of that, because we had such big purchasing power, we were doing everything wholesale plus 35%. So the client was getting insane savings. So like they just did everything with us. And it just became so much easier because we were already the logistics company. We already got it from point A to point B. And then we realized because we could do that here in North Carolina and we've shipped everywhere else in the world, we can do it anywhere in the United States.
Right.
So we've already started having people shipping to other places who are doing full house projects. Like we'll just ship them, put it on one big thing and go, here's everything. Or it's on its way to your forwarder. Here's go into the portal that we created. We created a portal system. They can go in, they can track their stuff on real time on their phone and know, hey, my Kohler sink is going to be here tomorrow. You
Right.
know, it became the same business that we did there, but here. I always thought I couldn't do business in the United States as much as well as I did in Latin America, and I think I had it reversed. So it was like, so, that's been our big push. And everybody's like, well, what about AI? I'm like, listen, I'm not worried about AI. AI, yes, AI is going to make things a little bit simpler, but they keep showing the same 3D asset over and over and over again. In order to manipulate something in real time, you have to have a human being actually doing it. So Jorge, who works for us, is this incredible wizard where we'll be sitting on with a client. We have a client in Raleigh. We're designing a 15,000 square foot house. He's like, Jorge, I want to see a staircase look like this. And Jorge will be like, "Droop, done. He's like, well, what if
And
we
is it
change the
SketchUp?
railing
Is
this?
SketchUp the primary tool?
Yes.
Okay.
He is phenomenal in that. And then we've had a client from Austin, Texas who blew our mind and came with his SketchUp with all this stuff and Jorge was like, "Whoa, okay." Dang. And that was a great interaction. And then we have Steffi who's our kitchen and bath. So when I got into kitchen and bath, I found the other wizard in kitchen and
Yeah.
bath.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Got to find
She
the
can
people.
design a kitchen in 15 minutes. I'm like, okay. So you're sitting there and it's like finding those people who are very good at what they do, very specialized within their departments. And once we found that, it just moved. You just
Boom, boom,
felt
boom.
this juggernaut go. So it's like, it's great because it allows you to get into that, and I had to learn kitchen and bath. I've had to learn tech, and then it's also having to learn to speak my client, you know what I mean, who doesn't speak
Yeah.
tech or speak cabinets or speak that, you know what I mean? It's being that voice in the middle saying, "Okay, show me your Pinterest board,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna understand the psychology of who you are, and then I'm gonna divvy it." Because
Yeah.
Pinterest is like the best thing on earth. I mean,
Yeah.
it literally is. I can really look at it and go, "Okay, you like this, and this." I did that with a client literally before the phone call here, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, I really actually do like that, and I like this. You figured me out." And I was like, "Actually, you just showed me,
Right.
and now I've
You
got
had
it."
it. Yeah. Yeah,
That's so
for
cool.
sure.
Tech is huge. Tech is big.
Yeah, it makes a
Oops,
huge
sorry.
difference. No, it's because it's really one of, and part of I'm asking. So, you know, I think I mentioned we're in the middle of what is the largest construction project we've ever done,
Mhm.
where we've taken a 1971 house and did things like raised a ceiling. Right, so it's 8 feet. We went to 10 feet, and that meant was so much more from an electrical, HVAC, etc., right, in terms of dealing with all of the mechanicals than I had dealt with in the past. So there was a learning experience
Yeah.
there, but it really has ended up being the entire home. So it's the entire home from a structural standpoint, like redid all of the cast iron pipes underneath the home.
Yeah.
So we're making it structurally, we're bringing it up to where it needs to be, but then also wanting to do a real luxury finish to it as well. It's a key part. It's an area of town where that works. You know, there's some areas
Sure.
where that doesn't make it valuable. This is
Right.
one where it does work. Um, and I think our technology is one of the areas where we need to develop, because
Yeah.
basically it's we've been making so many in the moment decisions where it
Versus
feels
like
like if we would
having
have
it
done
laid
what you
out
said,
ahead of time.
if we would have scanned, basically scanned the whole house, built it from the ground up, then we would have known. Like I think that my electrician just looked at me like,
You're crazy.
"You're crazy." Like we want no, I'm serious. Like in retrospect, I know that now. Like the
Yeah.
first time he came and walked through the house when it had all the wrong sheetrock and the layout was messed up and all that, and I'm like, "Hey, can you estimate this work?" And he told me yes, yeah, I'll get that to you. But I realized in retrospect, in his mind, he's thinking, "Dude, there's no way for me to estimate this for you right now because you don't know what you want." And
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on behind here. And so he came the second time and he's like, yeah, I'll get that estimate to you, But
Yeah.
it wasn't until we actually had the beams in place and the framing done that he's like, okay, now I can actually tell you
Sure.
this is
Yeah.
what
What's
needs to be done
happening?
at this point in
Mhm.
time. And so I think, man, I think getting to where we've got a better, between that and then also the logistics of just product selection,
Mhm.
where because we're doing stuff because of a little bit of decision fatigue as we go through, right? Decisions like, tile and flooring and all of that is happening. It didn't happen all up front. It's kind of happening as we go. And one of the challenges that's creating is then you're then what's in stock locally actually matters.
Right.
Whereas it
Because now
feels like
you're
if we
on
made
time
these
crunch.
decisions earlier,
You could
then
have
that's
stuff
not a big
ordered
deal.
and ready, and
Right now, suddenly a 2 week delay is a big deal because it's literally everything stopping waiting for tile to get in. Whereas if
Yep.
we had done the design work early
yeah.
on, then I don't care if it's 2, 4, 6 weeks because I don't need it for 8 because
Yeah.
I'm building the house basically. I
Oh,
think that's where,
or you pre-order
yeah,
it, which is what we tell clients. I'm like, "How would you like to know the fact that you're gonna hit your budget?" And they're like, "What do you
Yeah.
mean?" I was like, "I'm gonna hit your budget because we've already designed it. We've already come up with all this. I can show your builder and your builder can say, "Okay, that's 98 sheets of drywall."
Right.
And your tile guy can say, "All right, well, I now know that I need XYZ bags and all the Schluter system going on. I understand exactly how you want it because I've seen the tile layout."
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
I know where you want the niche. I know how much it's going to cost, or now I know that you want to tile the ceiling. Okay, you got to quote this, this, and this. So when the plumber comes out, he comes out in one trip. So
right,
people don't understand this. Each time your plumber comes out, they charge you. Each
Yeah.
time your electrician comes out. So what I always say is do all that work on the front end and fast, right? So like the fact is like we can do like houses in a week or two. Pop that stuff out, get your game plan on, know your budget, understand that you're going to have a what we call in the business an F up fee, which is that's when you
Your
open up
all
the
your
walls of your
overage
house.
and
When you
yeah.
open up the
okay.
walls of your house and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
What did they do? What?
Yeah.
uh did you
Well,
know
that's
that
what
you had
happened. Yeah,
yeah.
with our plumbing, we were not going to replace all the pipes, but then once we started seeing and exposing things and the inspectors are like, well,
And
you,
Oh,
finding
yes,
electrical in the wall where they had just twisted two things together and just kind of left it hanging there in the wall, and you're like, oh,
that
that's
you can't,
safe. That's
it's
great.
oh
not,
yeah.
you can't do that.
Well, we had that happen with a client just recently. We were gonna take the drop ceiling out and put a regular ceiling in, but when we opened up the drop ceiling and got to the wall, they're like, "This electrical's illegal unless
Yeah.
you put it back in the way it was." So that's a $50,000 change, which was a $5,000 change, or you just put back in a drop ceiling. Like,
Yeah.
drop
Drop ceiling.
ceiling,
Or
and
keeping the drop.
let's fix the electrical so it's up to code, but
Yeah.
that stunning ceiling is gone. And my client looked at me, she's like, "You didn't want to do the 50 grand?" I'm like, "It's your money. I'm not going to sit here and make you do that, but I am going to make you find the best look." So now we're going to do a coffered ceiling within the drop with the
Yeah.
drop so it
Right.
looks nicer. But I mean, you're sitting there going, I'm like, and I always tell clients, you never know what's behind those walls. I
No.
mean, we've had snakes come out, like, there's a snake. And like, but you don't know. You don't know if you're gonna like a 1970s house. Did they use the 1970s asbestos tile when you
Right.
get there and you're like, oh, sweet. Like, or the 1945 tile. Like you start learning, like, what year
Yeah.
was this house built?
It
Run away.
matters.
Right.
Like you
Yeah.
Is
need to
there
run
lead
away
on the
now.
walls? Is there lead paint on the
Yeah,
walls? Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Next time, I mean, for me, even just it's like the cast iron pipes, at least in Texas, underneath the shifting soil that we have
Soil.
here.
Hmm.
For our next project, man, if I can avoid pre 1980, I will.
Yeah.
Like, give me some
Oh yeah.
PVC pipe, please, because
Yeah.
otherwise, I know it's going to have to be replaced.
Hmm.
I can't do what we want to do with because we're not like our desire is not to be like fix and flippers, like people who put the same finishes in every house and can do it really fast. I mean, that's a great business. That's just not what we want to do.
No.
Right.
We want to find like this house again on 2 acres, so it's country but really close in. It's in a city called Parker, where the comps around it allow us to invest and do a luxury product. But if I'm going to do a luxury product, I have to do luxury, at least from our perspective, I have to do it all the way.
Right.
I can't put
Yeah.
lipstick on a pig. I can't
No.
just put luxury finishes and leave you with those cast iron pipes. Like
Right.
that's a disingenuous thing for what we're trying to produce. And
Right.
so, but knowing what we know now will affect our decisions for
Yeah.
our next purchase for sure.
You have to do
Knowing-
it. You have to
knowing we
try
wanna get
once.
to that outcome.
Yeah.
Will,
You don't know until
Oh,
you try and you get there, you go through it and you go, well, we learned some things.
we learned some things.
We've learned quite a few
oh yeah.
things. Yeah, but that's one of the big things for us from the construction design standpoint is like we really needed to know up front what the whole design was, have it drawn out, have it out in front of us, have, our fixtures and all the things that we wanted done there so we could start from there and then, build up to that point. But like it's been these like in the moment decisions have been like, okay, now what? Like he'll give me a list every week. I need these decisions this week. I'm like,
This is the 5 I
okay.
have to have from you this week.
So, and it's not a great way to live, but we're learning. And so we'll know for the next one how to do it more correctly. But
Well, but the thing is like at least for us because we're still fairly new in some of these things. We couldn't have done it differently this because we didn't know.
we didn't know.
Like we just
Yeah.
hadn't learned. We hadn't gone through it to learn, and now we know, and now we can do things differently. But do
Yeah.
you are your clients? Do you ever work with investors as well, or is your clients primarily kind of retail, my own home type of things from a design
Oh, we work
standpoint?
we've done multiple Airbnb houses. We've done
Mhm.
investor homes. We've done flips. We've done restaurants, contract, all of that stuff. I mean,
Everything, all of the
it's
above.
full. I've dealt with the Bellagio Hotel. I've dealt with the Boca Raton in my past life doing that type stuff. I've dealt with current clients now where like, I had a client come and say, here's the house, here's a check, go. And I went,
Right.
excuse me? I was
Free
like,
reign.
okay. And then you're like stuck with this, like, well, what
Right.
would I do? And they're like, well,
Right.
you go with God and you figure it out. You're like, okay.
Make some magic happen. It'll be great.
Yeah. And like, we had this client, they're amazing from Houston. And she called me and she's like, I found you online. And she's like, here's this house. I want it to be an Airbnb. Go. You've got 3 months. I mean, I was like, oh, we're going to try. but it might go over, but I'll do my best. Then husband was amazing. He's like, well, actually, I want to make it even bigger. And I'm going, well, that budget makes it way more comfortable for me to do this. So we get it done. We get it all staged out. Like they haven't seen the house since we've gutted this thing and done it. We even left like fruit and stuff. They walked in and the husband's like, yeah, it's not an Airbnb. It's our house now. And I went, oh,
We're moving
uh-oh.
in. That's great.
You did a great job.
No, but I mean, like we've done that, and I've had a client from Florida say, I've bought this house out here, come do it. I'm like, okay, well, this is the timeline, this is the time frame. Here's the design, here's the price, here's the total budget. And that's when you can start saying, well, I don't want to spend this, I don't want to spend that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where investors have really liked, because it's like they have control.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, as I say constantly, if you're building the plane while it's flying, it's going to cost you a fortune.
More.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, that's how we work with investors on their second properties. So we've got a house we're doing in Banner Elk where the client was like, okay, I'm spending this on furniture, I'm spending this on the house, I'm spending this on the finishes. Do not go above. Okay, done. Here's where we're at. And I'm like, down to the penny.
And
Yeah.
where
And
does the construction general contracting side come into that equation? Like, do you have your own teams in these different locations, or do you just have general contractors who you partner with who give you kind of the labor side of it, or how does that work?
So, yes. So actually, this is how we're so weird, because of the amount of work we're being asked to do, because we do the work up front, the design up front. We have contractors that just only work with us. I mean,
Mm.
that's it. We're like, not only do you not have to wait for the builder, he's ready and he's going to come and meet with you. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, yep. This guy's guaranteed for 1 million plus. This guy's guaranteed for our remodels. This guy's our guarantee for here. This is who you're going to meet with. He's going to price you out. And the price is so much significantly less because they're not having to put the extra markups on stuff, because we're giving them so much business. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Right.
It
Yeah.
does.
And that's how that's our stronghold, is where we get in and we make these relationships with these builders, and we do that. Now, we do work with other builders who come to us who don't have a design firm, and we're kind of their secondary, but then we're helping them because their houses look incredible after we're
Right.
done. They're like, I have a builder just came to me. He's like, please, this looks cookie cutter. I need a wow factor. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to put it into 3D. I'll show you what it looks like. Give me a week and a half. Whereas beforehand, he was having to wait months. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
so it all depends on who you work with. You know what I'm saying? And so because it's virtual, because it's digital, you can really do it anywhere. So it depends on like the builder we're working with or the contractor we're working with. We're able to really figure that out in many different states. It's kind of cool.
I love that. That
Yeah.
is so
That's
cool.
great.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've got to we will definitely figure out a way, one way or the other, to work together at some point in time.
Yeah.
Whether it's
If you
Please
ever
don't.
need help, please let us know. Like we go down to your
Yes.
knobs. We'll have your knob selection. Everything will be done. So when you rock and roll, you'll see it and be like, so I'm like, here, it's done. Check your PowerPoint presentation with everything itemized, and here's
Yeah.
your Excel. And what I love is like my clients see the major savings. And so if you do sell the house, like I had a client sell the house, he's like, that was the best 70 grand I ever made, because I just sold him retail what you sold me at wholesale plus. And I was like,
Right.
Right.
see, you're welcome.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a little package.
Yeah.
So yeah,
When
it's
I think
kind of
it's just transparent. It's clear. Like, this is what all the things that you're getting, and the price point is, a really good price point, and you can see the benefit on the other side, because there's sometimes you just don't know, like, am I getting a value out of this or not? And so that's really nice that it's just clear.
Well, I think that's what has been the most biggest thing is again, transparency. I think when you really, if there's no lies in your business and there's no,
Mhm.
you're not hiding something, I feel that people take you for being genuine and just being genuine yourself. Like,
Yeah.
like I talk about God in my business, and some people go, "Whoa, you're going to do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, because I have faith and I've got things to do, and he's here and he's helped me through my failures and my good things, and I'll bring him up." And
Yep.
that's how it is, and I'm not here to offend you, but, that's what we're about, and I find that my clients are very okay, like,
Mhm.
I'm not here to talk politics, I'm here to talk about your house,
Yeah.
and I can bring the other bad point up, which is religion, but we're gonna go.
Yeah.
But, I find that that's been the biggest that once they see that this weight of, like, I'm not getting, excuse my French, screwed,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this industry is very known for taking people to the woodshed,
Oh, yeah.
like big
And
time
it's just cutthroat. It can be really cutthroat.
and nasty. And it's just like,
Mhm.
don't have to be that way. You can actually be friendly and help each other out and grow more. And I find that that's just been who we've been. I mean, who knew that a female entrepreneur was going to work in the male dominated construction world?
Right. That's true.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but the guy that works with us, Tony, he's amazing. But if you heard his accent, you'd be like,
Yeah.
how does that guy work with that lady? And he's one of my dear friends. Do you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, and it's just again being transparent. When things happen wrong for him with the client, you take ownership. Say, well, no, I didn't draw that. I'm paying for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm buying that. Or if like something happens that he does wrong, he's like, no, Colleen, I got that. That's me. But it's working because the easiest thing a designer can do to a builder is like, you did that. And it's
Mhm.
like, no, no, collective. We
Yeah.
Yeah.
have to, we got to be all in this. You can't make the client pay for screw ups that you did, you
Mhm.
know? And sometimes they're expensive. But you
Yeah.
just have to it's just, again, transparency, being honest. That's it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we've discovered um, just in the different projects we've worked on, and really inside of this big one that we're doing, is that a lot of it boils down to these friendships and these relationships that you're building and connecting with these people, because you're at the end of the day you're working with people. It's a person business, it's a person to person business, and so being having genuine connection and building business relationships, but at the same time, like, we we want to develop something that's more than just surface level. Okay, you came and put in some pipes for us, thanks, see you later, but that you can build and work with alongside long term, and that takes collaboration, that takes partnership, that takes some give and take and some understanding that it something may screw up, and being able to come back and communicate that, but in a way that you can continue to build and work together. So I think that's one of the things that we've taken away, is like, more important than whether this is a big success or whatever it is that we've made these connections and built these business relationships along the way. So
Agreed.
Well,
People
their
matter.
families are invested in it too.
yeah,
It's like that
100%.
plumber, that electrician, their wife had to say, yes, you need to go and take care of that house on a weekend when we're supposed to be together to make sure we get this project
Yeah,
done. And I always make sure I know, like, Tony's wife's name is Heather. I'll send them like, hey, I know you had to work late today. I bought you guys dinner. Go.
yeah,
Like, I really
nice.
appreciate you. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting him come over. Thanks for being my other work wife. Like, like,
Yep.
but I think those are super important. Like, you just have to remember again, people,
Yeah.
it's super important. But yeah,
It matters.
Yeah.
Colleen, thank you so much. This
Yes.
was a great conversation. I
I
appreciate you
thoroughly
taking
enjoyed
us
it.
on the journey that you've been on, and
Yes. This is so
how you're
good.
building everything from the multi businesses to your family and your three daughters. This was just really enjoyable. So
Hmm.
I can't tell you how much we appreciate you spending the time with us.
Well, I appreciate you guys and thank you for having me on your show. And again, if you ever need anything, please let us know. We're here to help.
Yes.
All right, we will.
Thank you. Any last things you want to say, or do we have, I guess we'll get to your like website and all your, do you guys have Instagram and all that kind of stuff
Yes,
that we
so you can
can?
find us at cbbdesignfirm.com. Our website is CBB Design Firm, and then Mimosa Home is the same at Mimosa Home NC and mimosahome.com. So, and
Okay.
then, yeah, Morgan Stewart's the unsexy one that doesn't have all the BB up
Yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah. It's just holding everything down up there.
Yeah, pretty much.